Hello, and welcome to another edition of Exclusive Interview, coming to you from the studios of 84 TV Radio, Abuja, Nigeria. My name is Stanley Bentu. Now, for communication to happen, in addition to a message, you need three key ingredients. You need a sender, you need a medium, and you need a receiver. But for effective communication to happen, you also need feedback. Now, if you get the kind of feedback that you really desire, it means that you are an effective communicator. To learn more about this, have a look at this report.
Is it possible to manage an organization successfully without a strategic communication process? It certainly would be extremely difficult. This makes public relations a critical tool for corporate success. The aim of public relations, or PR for short, is to build beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. You can also see PR as a way of earning and not interrupting people's attention. A savvy communicator knows how to create compelling stories, and with that, gain publicity for free from trusted, unpaid or earned channels. Public relations complements your marketing activities. Many businesses are competing for attention, but unlike intrusive and irritating advertising, PR earns people's attention. How? By providing and delivering value. A talented communicator shares useful, educational, inspiring or compelling content. And a smart communicator knows how to convey a brand's higher purpose. Instead of PR competing, it can support initiatives in a way advertising and marketing can't. On Exclusive Interview today, we seek to learn how best we can all apply this to our benefit. We speak to the President and Chairman of the Governing Council of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, Malam Mukhtar Zubairu Siraju, who sheds more light on this noble profession.
It's my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome to our studios the President and Chairman of the Governing Council of the Nigeria Institute of Public Relations. His name is Mukhtar Zubairu Siraju. Mr. President, it's a pleasure to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Now, I would like us to start with what seems to be a simple question, but when you look under the surface, it's not so simple. Who is a public relations practitioner?
Well, I think I agree with you. It's such a simple question, seemingly simple rather, but difficult. It has two-pronged answers. If you had asked me who is a public relations person, it would have been an easier question to answer. But public relations practitioner, I think I'll try to make the distinction. A public relations person is you and you and you and me. Everybody is a public relations person because public relations is about communication. And communication is what we do from day one till the last day. You communicate one thing or the other. But so in essence, public relations is all about relationship. And you begin to build relationships from the cradle till you go 6 feet under. But public relations practitioner, that one is a person who deliberately chooses to study communication and practices it in such a way that it engenders mutually beneficial relationship between one person and the other. I think that's the difference between a public relations person on a globalized scale and a public relations practitioner. Public relations practitioner is that person who now goes out deliberately to want to create a better relationship between a person and another person, between an organization and its publics. The idea about public relations is building cordial relationship between one segment of the society and the other.
And you said it's something that all of us tend to do in our lives. Some of us maybe not so well. So would you recommend that every individual learns a thing or two about relating with the public?
That's very, very important. That's very, very important. But like you said, we all practicing it in our own varying degrees, in our own various ways. And some do it so well, some do it not so well. But it is important that in whatever aspect of human endeavor you are involved in, public relations is given its rightful place. And of course, not forgetting what I said earlier, that we are all public relations people in one way or the other, since it is all about communication. But since it is a field now that is studied deliberately and even mastered, it is important that we all spice our dealings, our interactions with some elements of public relations. In that way, you not only subconsciously do it, but you do it knowing full well that you are doing this to enhance and make relationships better.
So tell me about the NIPR. Exactly what is it and how does it function?
The Nigerian Institute of Public Relations is an institute, it's a creation of law in the first place. It came into being with the realization that yes, as public, the human species, not only the human species, even the animal species communicate. As we communicate, we needed to do some codification of the communication process itself. So public relations came up as a result of that, and at a point in this country, some people got together and decided to come up with the idea of having a body that will accommodate practitioners, regulate the practice, so that it is not an all-comers affair, because it is not an all-comers affair. And at some point, sometime in 1990, Decree number 16 was promulgated by the government then, which is now an act of parliament, giving legal backing, establishing the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations and giving it the power not only to regulate the practice of the profession, but also to set parameters of knowledge that need to be acquired before one can practice public relations. And there has been no going back since that time. We've been on our tours, selling the gospel of the professionalization of the industry, and we have achieved relative success. And like I said, the NIPR is not it's not a trade union. It's not a company. It's not a corporate entity that you go to Corporate Affairs Commission and begin to look for its registration. It is a creation of law. It is an act of the National Assembly of Nigeria now, and to boot, it criminalizes the practice of the profession without licensing by the institute. And what the law says is that nobody can practice public relations by whatever other name if that person is not licensed by the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. So by whatever other name means anybody doing the work of communication in any entity in Nigeria, whatever kind of entity, must first be, as far as the law is concerned, a member of the institute that is licensed by the institute. And the violation of that law attracts a penalty of imprisonment or fine or both.
Or both. And interestingly, you said it's not an all-comers affair, or it was designed to prevent public relations from being an all-comers affair. So yeah. Who is it that can become a member of the NIPR, and who is it that cannot?
You can become a member of NIPR. The qualifications vary in degrees. Graduates of some social sciences like mass communication. Of course, mass communication has been unbundled now. Now you have, the NUC has unbundled mass communication into several sub disciplines. You don't have departments of mass communications anymore, or from some time shortly.
Public relations even being one of those disciplines.
Public relations is now an independent course, an independent field. Journalism is one, media relations, and I mean, when we went to school, we studied mass communication, under which lay public relations. Now, but all the same, since the law is still in force, graduates of mass communication, advertising, and similar disciplines can automatically apply to be members of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations on graduation. Otherwise, you have to go through other processes if you don't have those qualifications that I have highlighted.
Coming from those disciplines.
Coming from those disciplines.
So if you didn't, what do you do?
You register. We have public relations schools. The NIPR itself runs schools. There are other entities that run public relations as courses. Like there are centers where you go, register, and undergo a training in public relations, at the end of which you are examined. If you are found to be qualified in character and learning.
So it's not just academic.
It's not just academic, of course. Because there's no way you can manage relationship if your character is not attuned towards engendering cordiality amongst people. So outside those fields, you can register with any of the public relations centers. Once you pass, you become one. But we have been engaged in a very strong battle against quackery and to enforce compliance with the provisions of the law.
And I would like to hear more about that, including the character of what a public relations person should be in the ideal sense. But that would be right after the break. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Exclusive Interview. I've been having a very interesting chat with Mukhtar Zubairu Sirajo, who's the president and also the chairman of the governing council of the NIPR. Well, what does it take to be a public relations practitioner? That's what we've been talking about. And right before the break, you mentioned that two of the things that the Institute is fighting for and against quackery and for good character. So just focusing on public relations in and of itself, what should the character of somebody who's a spokesperson be?
First and foremost, a public relations practitioner must be honest, must be somebody who is interested, who is out to establish a very decent relationship between one and the other.
Honesty.
Honesty.
Which is an interesting question, because some people seem to feel that you must say something positive about the organization you represent, even if it's a lie.
I was coming to that. Some people misconstrue public relations to mean whitewashing. And the core essence of public relations believes that you cannot sell a bad product. So if you are a public relations practitioner, you have a product, you want to sell it, you have to ensure that you have a product that can fly. Because you cannot make an elephant fly. You have to be honest. It is not about telling lies. Public relations is about painting the true picture of situations. But then, part of its definition is, it entails a lot of planning, deliberate planning ahead of time. It envisages problems and comes up with what it thinks are supposed to be solutions to such problems, such that when they arise, you are already on top of the situation. So it is not about this thing happening for you to come out and say it didn't happen.
So what?
No, it is about it happening and you acknowledging it happened and giving the correct perspective to it.
What if I find myself in an organization, perhaps when I got the job, the organization was good, it had integrity, but then somewhere along the line something happens, and perhaps a scandal, and I have to go out there and speak to the media about this, do some damage control. It becomes difficult. What should a public relations person do in such a situation?
In the first place, if you are there, you take all necessary steps to ensure that a scandal doesn't erupt. And if it does erupt, you owe the company and the public the truth about it. You can do it in such a way that you mitigate the damage that scandal does. Denying that it happened makes you a liar, and the public has a way of knowing that it happened even after you have denied it happened. So you are better off accepting, acknowledging that it happened, but that it's an entity that is populated by human beings, which is not infallible, which is not perfect. Acknowledging that it happened, but you are on top of the situation. You acknowledge that there's a problem, but you are all out trying to resolve that problem, would make you a better person and would make your organization a better entity in the eyes of the public, because that acknowledgement in itself says a lot about your decency, however good it is. But you have to do whatever you can to ensure that the scandal doesn't happen. In fact, that's why you are there. You are supposed to be able to project that if this happens, it leads to this. That happens, it leads to that. So if you are taken seriously as an image maker, as somebody in charge of communications, and you are involved at decision-making level, you should be able to see where a particular line of action is likely to take to ensure that it is averted. Because the way it is now, not all public relations practitioners are successful in their entities because they are brought in as more or less fire brigade people. They don't know what happens until there is problem. That is when the company now begins to call, where is the PRO? It is
so the PRO should be a part of the policy.
He should be part of the policy and decision-making body. He should be able to deliberately see into the future. I mean, you know for sure that if you touch fire, it's going to burn you. But a child, so you liken the non-public, the other people that are not public professionals to a kid. A brand new kid, if you give him fire, he will clutch it. He will grab it. But you are supposed to know that if you grab a fire, it's going to hurt you, it's going to burn you, so avoid it. This is the way to do it. There is a way you pour water on it to quench it. So part of public relations duty is looking into the future, deliberate planning, deliberate looking at things and what they can lead up to. So being at the management level is very, very important. It is not about fire brigade. In any relationship, even in media relations, which is a component of public relations anyway, you don't wait until there is crisis before you begin to say, oh, I know this one in this radio station, let me go to him. But establish a relationship first when you don't need them. So it is a deposit you are making. It is all part of relations, part of public relations activity, ensuring that there is a very good relationship in such a way that when crisis erupts, you already have a relationship that you can count on to help you navigate the murky waters of the crisis.
I really love a point that you make. When things go wrong in your organization, don't deny.
Don't deny.
The target is let the public know that when things go wrong, something is being done to correct it.
Yes.
Fantastic. I also need to ask this question, and it's interesting that you brought this up. The unbundling of mass communication and all of the different components that it has currently. And I was having a conversation recently with the head of Department of Media at Bayes University. And I asked him a question. I would like to ask you that question as well. Recently, when it comes to the spokesperson in the public sector at the highest level, the presidency, the governorship, we've seen a new kind of public relations officer. That is the combative public relations officer. One who believes that his job is to be aggressive or acidic towards the would-be critics of the administration. Now, I'm not certain as to why this evolved, but perhaps the toxic nature of Nigerian politics could have thrown this up, that maybe governments in office feel that there's a need to do this, and if you don't do this, you'd be perceived as being soft. What is your take? What do you think about that particular brand of public relations officer?
Incidentally, I was a spokesperson for 7 governors of Kaduna State. Across a period of about 18 or so years. The problem we have with many of the people who take on the job of spokesperson is the problem of kakri, like I said earlier on. They are not mostly they are not trained public relations people. They are people who probably have the capacity to speak or write good English, editorialize, and anybody who goes to office as governor, president, or whatever thinks that this makes for a good spokesman. No. What they should try to understand is that a spokesperson, the person who manages your public relations, is supposed to make friends for you. In fact, he's not supposed to join in your fight against your enemies. While you're fighting your enemies, he should be at the background thinking and coming up with strategies that will turn those enemies of yours into friends, not to join the fray. So in this sense, the public relations person is supposed to operate above the fray, because there are two, in this kind of situation, you have people who are on your side, you have people who are sitting on the fence, and you have people who are at the other side of the fence. So the job of the public relations person, especially the political public relations person, is to ensure that while maintaining these friends that are already there, he must ensure that they are not lost. Those that are on the fence, he must ensure that he brings over here.
As many as possible.
As many as possible on the fence. Those 20 that are at the other side of the fence, he should ensure that he brings at least 2 or 3, reducing the number to 17 there. It makes it easier for his principal.
So his best strategy is
the ability to reconcile. Is the ability to try to explain his principal's situation in a manner that will generate empathy and even sympathy for the principal. Not to be combative and make more enemies for the principal. And that is what largely obtains in the society now. And part of the problem is that these people that are on the job are not trained to do the job.
Well, my last question to you, and I wish we had so much more time because this is really getting interesting, but from your experience being a spokesperson, especially within the public sphere, what would you say was your biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge?
The one thing that kept you up at night?
Well, before I answer that, I'm glad that I didn't practice spokesmanship in the area of the new media.
It's a new kind of beast, that's what.
It's a new kind of beast. Because in those days, you could have a problem that ordinarily might keep you up at night, but you would still think, okay, it is late now. Papers had gone to bed. Let me wait till tomorrow. Early in the morning, I will begin to make contacts.
Oh,
but
you couldn't do that now.
You can't do that now. So it's a 24-hour business. It's a 24/7 business. But the biggest challenge is in trying to do what I just told you now, what you needed to do to balance to strike a balance between the interest of the principal and those publics that you want to sell your principal to. And especially in media relations, sometimes you are torn between two extremes, the media and your principal. Bringing them to understand one another is a very, very challenging but interesting task. If you know your onions, it is not the easiest of tasks, but it is the most interesting of tasks. But balancing between how to protect and project your principal, as well as ensure that you don't make him lose his friends, you rather make more friends for him, is the biggest challenge of the spokesperson thing that I have experienced.
Well, Mr. President, this has been quite educative, and thank you very much for taking the time to come here and speak with us, and we wish you greater success for the rest of your tenure.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
We will be right back. Well, that was quite an informative conversation that we had there with the president of the NIPR. He said quite a number of things, but one of the things that stayed with me is the role of public relations people and spokespersons. They need to remember that whenever there's a crisis, there are three groups of people that they need to address. The first group are people who will support the organization no matter what. The second group are people who will be against the organization no matter what. While the third group are those who stand on the fence. So what is the assignment for a spokesperson? Well, the first thing you need to do is to make sure that those who are on your side remain on your side. Then you have to win as many from the other side as possible. But the key to success is how many of those who are undecided that you can win over. And if you can get a lot of those, then you would have done your job well. Success. Well, that's it for Exclusive Interview for today. Until we come your way again next time, thank you for stopping by.